Right, Tony, it's been a long time since we last had a chat. I think at the start of the season we had all the optimism and looking forward to another season. Now we're right at the end of the season, one more game to go, and I think it's fair to say, by recent standard, it's been a disappointing one for Warrington.
Yeah, I agree. And disappointment that you haven't been here. I now know why we've had that season, Gary, because you haven't been turning up on a weekly basis. Right. So, yeah, you've let us down there.
You need me here encouraging and motivating every week.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll try and put that right for next season.
Absolutely, yeah. We need more commitment. It's been a tough season at certain stages, and yes, disappointing in some respects, and there's some positives to take out of it, such as the experience of some of our young people, and they've had to step up and get some experience, and it's good for them in their futures, whilst it's been tough for them and a tough learning curve for some of them. And it's also taught us a bit about some of our senior players who need to perform, and you need your biggest and best to stand up and perform on a weekly basis, and that's at times been a struggle for some of them, and but it's given some of those young boys an experience. And I think injuries has been another part of it this year that's really plagued us at certain stages. And I think since round 4 we've had an average of 6 and 6.5 players per match out, which is enormous. I've certainly never come across it in my experience as a head coach, and we've had up to 11 missing on any 1 week on a number of occasions, and that's pretty tough for any Super League team to develop consistencies when you've got those sort of statistics. And so there's some things that tell us that we need to change things, and in order to not have a similar sort of season. The other thing, it's been a bad year to have a bad year when in the past it's been top 8 for the finals, and you can still win the competition. And on our day, as we've seen at different stages, we've been able to compete with the best of them. And unfortunately, we don't get that chance this year, even if we come into some great form at the back end, like some other teams have had in the past when they've been, not necessarily in the top 4. That doesn't mean to say we would have done it from 6th position, but it'd be nice to have that opportunity as well. But it is what it is. So we've got to accept that, and we've got to learn from it, and we've got to take out of it the lessons that we need to improve on. This year, for example, is the least amount of time any of our players are having off after their season finishes. We're back in. They've got the month off, and then back into some hard work before Christmas. And New Year's gone past, we're probably giving them closer to 6 weeks, and we need to get in and make sure that their bodies are in the best shape we can have them. So, in order to hopefully reduce those injury tolls for next year, to give us our best chance for consistencies. And I think when you look at most clubs this year, when they've had their inconsistent periods, it's been when they've had their biggest injury tolls. So you don't have to work out that you've got to reduce your injury tolls if you want to be consistent. So
is that why you've made some of the changes in the back room?
Yeah, some of that. Yeah, absolutely, some of that. It's not all down to injuries, but there's certainly some aspects of our injuries this year is certainly down to some of that, and we can't. You're never going to reduce your injury toll to 0, but you can reduce it by certain methods, and we're putting a big focus on that for next year, and also people who have injuries and carry injuries, and it's all part and parcel of the game, but it can increase your chances of having an injury toll on far too large, and it has been at times this year.
You've announced quite a lot of new arrivals for next season. Are there more to announce?
Yeah, we will have an odd name or two. Yep. So.
How soon can we expect to hear about any more signings?
Yeah, when they're done. when they're across the line. There's still some activity going on in various places, in various parts of the world. So when the time's right. Like I always say, of course the club is always going to, put those announcements out, and when they're done, I know we get speculated with every Tom, Dick and Harry, and some of those are made up by managers who want to increase their players' salaries, so they jump on websites and put links onto or that we're interested in certain players in order to bump their salaries up, and that they grow legs sometimes. So we only deal in the truth, and so when it comes out, it'll be when things are done, and we've got nothing to announce just at the moment.
But I think it's fair to say it's probably going to be one of the biggest number of changes we've had at Warrington in your time here.
Certainly is.
And we're already going through a certain element of transition. How much longer do you see this transition going on for?
In terms of numbers, or
the number of players, and how long it will take for them to settle in and get a solid team together that can perform at the top again.
Yeah, quickly. Quickly. Well, that's we're hoping that this year that could be done in the time. We had a number of senior players all finish at within a year or two of each other. We had a lot of 34, 35-year-olds who, most of which have retired. Only one or two went on to continue playing somewhere else. But most of them, we got the best out of them, and they finished all pretty much around the same sort of time. So, when you then ask young people to step into those big shoes in a quick period of time, it's a big ask. We often remember some of those 34 and 35 and 36-year-olds as being hugely consistent players for all of their career, but some of them only found some of that consistency at the back end of their careers, and we expect young people to be able to jump into their shoes and be consistent straight away. And I think sometimes it takes a little bit more time for some than others, and we've got to get them there as quick as we can, and we're hoping to do that, and we're hoping to get the right sort of people around them to do that. But there's no guarantees on that too. Sometimes some of the recruitment that you make, you hope that you get the very best out of people exactly straight away. It's a very hard thing to do. It takes time to settle into, particularly when you key playmakers. An example of that is Darryl Clark, one of the best players in the competition last year, in a key position to be thrown in and expected to just hit the road running. It wasn't through lack of trying for Clarkie, but and it was a little bit of come to us busted in terms of injury wise and playing injured for a lot of the season. But he's been one of our best players at the back end of the season, but it took him some time to get through that and to get to know the traits of his teammates and what they like to do and what they are good at and what they're not so good at. And it takes a bit of time for the players around him to. So, we would hope that happened from week one, but sometimes it takes a little bit more time. And that's happened to a few players this year.
You've had a chance to reflect on the new format of the game now, and it was marketed every minute matters. Well, it hasn't really mattered for some teams in the end of season games, every minute, Warrington being one of them, with some, what people call in the game, dead rubbers. Do you think the system that's in place is the future of the game, or do you think it needs some changes?
I don't like the system at all, but and I, in some ways, take some exception to every minute matters. It does matter. Every game of rugby league matters to the people who play it. If you haven't played it, you probably sometimes think that it doesn't matter. People in rugby league jersey on and part of a team, absolutely it matters. Does that mean you can play your best each and every time? No, it doesn't. But it does matter. In terms of are there as many teams vying for the title longer into the season? No, it's not. So can some supporters and people on the periphery lose interest in some of those games? Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Was 8 too many? Yes. Yeah, 8's too many. Is 4 too few? Probably. Yeah, probably too few.
Maybe 6 is the magic number.
Yeah, which it has been in the past. 8 out of 14 was, I think everybody realised, too many. 6 out of 14, yeah, it makes sense. But now we're down to 12, 6 out of 12, yeah, probably fair. My only bit, I suppose, is I'm not sure that we're seeing the best rugby league being televised by putting the top of the lower division on and the bottom of your higher division on as the showcase for our sport. I don't. Often you see some of our ex-players who probably were our fringe players who didn't quite, cut the mustard at Super League level are now what we're seeing on TV at the moment. And, so as far as showcasing the sport, I'm not sure that the present format is the way to actually market our sport. But hey, listen, there's some interest. It creates interest. I'm not a promotion relegation person. I think it makes it very difficult for consistency of building a business. I know this culture and this part of the world is used to it, but doesn't make it any easier to run a business and attract sponsorship or attract people even to your club when you're not sure what division you're going to be playing in. So I think it breeds a lot of uncertainty in the business and the ability to attract players. But it creates interest, or so they say. I think some people lose some interest because of it too. So there's a detrimental aspect of it as well. Will there be some interest in the £1 million game as they bill it? Absolutely. But in the meantime, I'm not sure that we're, promoting our sport in the best way possible.
Out of all the farewells you've had to make towards the end of this season, one of the toughest must have been to Joel Monaghan, who's been a top club man, top try scorer, top all-round bloke, really. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the toughest decisions or deliveries that I've had to make. By certain. He's a friend, he's somebody I respect, he's somebody who's contributed a whole lot. He's been an absolute, professional about it and accepted it, and he and I'd like to think are as close now as we ever have been. He's very accepting of it, he understands that it's a business decision, and I feel for him. He's probably been one of the people who have suffered, that the team hasn't been so consistent. I think sometimes your try scorers and your wingers suffer the consequences of, when, as much as anybody, when you're not on a roll and, your team's not firing on all cylinders. And I think it's been difficult for Joel and others, but it was certainly a difficult one for me to deliver, because I've got a lot of time for him, and I've seen he come to us when things probably weren't great in his life, and he's done nothing but try to put his best foot forward, for us every time he plays. He's a good fella. He's been a big personality. I've got a whole lot of time for him, and so have the other players. So yeah, tough. But we've also got to make some decisions where we can. There's areas that we need to improve in, and when Joel's in the age bracket that he is, and probably salary bracket that he was, is probably where we felt we could make the biggest and most drastic changes. Okay, Tony. Well, thanks for your time as always. It's been a long time in between interviews this season. I'll try and get back a bit more often next season to keep you motivated. We're putting a lot of it down to you, Gary, so we need more consistency from you next year. Okay, I'll do my best. Thanks for your time. Thank you.